Limbert Company, L-I-M-B-E-R-T. He called his furniture Dutch Arts and Crafts. The oldest stuff is actually the straight line things that aren't very fancy. This is actually 1904 in furniture. If it has the turned arms and legs, these are 1911. These were purchased for the Grand Canyon Hotel, which opened that year. The partner writing desks were purchased for all the hotels, also from 1911. So most of it's dating from 1904 to 1911. The second company that's pretty heavily represented, the chairs here with the woven seats and backs, these came from Indiana. They're from the Old Hickory Furniture Company. And when we celebrated our centennial in 2004, they celebrated with us because they're still in business and we're still buying their chairs. So we have a more than 100-year relationship with that Indiana Furniture Company. Across the lobby from here on the third floor, you can see a set of steps that begin there, go all the way up to the top. They were constructed so our guests could get to the roof. At the far right, the steps disappear into the roof. There's a final set of steps outside that goes to an observation deck on top, and when we open, guests could go up there to see the geyser basin from that high perspective. Today, if you try to go up there, you'll find a locked gate on the third floor. And the sign at the bottom of the steps describes the damage that happened to that part of the building in the 1959 earthquake. Same earthquake that damaged our lobby chimney. Hepkin Lake earthquake, August 17th of 1959, 7.5 on the Richter scale. Major earthquake. The waves of the earthquake came through the building diagonally, so everything was twisting, and the log structure was flexible enough to twist without a lot of permanent damage, but the steps going up to the roof separated from the wall. During the restoration project of 2004 to 2008, that was repaired. Our contractors had the outside wall removed, so they reattached the steps to the wall and stabilized the area. What's actually keeping us out right now are the fire codes. There's only one way up and down, and without having a second exit, we may not legally open it. So our bell porters go up to put up and take down the flags on the roof. They're the ones who use that section of the building. Inside at the very top, there's a little structure up there that has its own roof on it. It has a door and a couple of windows on hinges that swing open and closed. In this enormous lobby designed to look like a big forest, what else can it be but a tree house? Nothing inside it, little piece of Reamer's imagination. Right below the tree house there's another platform. It's a square platform with a railing around it. That's where the musicians took their instruments after dinner. So they would have been playing from up there for the dancing down here on the lobby floor. Today the Inn is recognized as a National Historic Landmark. That's a step above a National Historic Site. Landmarks recognize nationwide significance, and for us in part, it's the type of architecture that Reamer used here and the influence that this building had. This is not what hotels looked like in national parks when we opened. That first hotel at Mammoth Hot Springs opened in 1883. It was a Queen Anne style structure. 400 feet long, 6 stories high, complete with a turret sticking out of the middle of it. Lake Yellowstone Hotel on the east side of the park, our oldest hotel still operating, opened in 1891. It's colonial looking on the outside, step inside it, and you could be anywhere. And that was the original idea. Bring wealthy travelers to the wilderness, they're going to be happier. It's something that looks like it's not in the wilderness. That's exactly what Reamer tried here. He brought the outdoors into the lobby. He brought the first-class comforts in as well, so there was a positive response, and other architects began to play around with the rustic style. El Tovar in Grand Canyon National Park opened 8 months after we did. There are 3 rustic hotels in Glacier National Park, north of us in Montana, the first of those under construction 9 years after we opened. Crater Lake Lodge in Oregon was next. Then in Washington on Mount Rainier, Paradise Inn opened in the late teens. 1920s, Bryce and Zion Lodges in Utah were built. The north rim of the Grand Canyon. The Ahwahnee in Yosemite, 1927. Timberline Lodge, Mount Hood in Oregon in the 30s. I see a few nods. Some of you have been in these other structures, different architects, different time periods, but if people hadn't liked the inn, we would have been the last rustic hotel and we would not still be here today. But there was enough of a positive response, and I think the inn connects us out to these other national park hotels. I think the inn connects us back into Yellowstone's past. And if you close your eyes, you can imagine what it was like to see the music or hear the music filtering down and see the dancers out there. And by the way, our government and administration in Yellowstone at that time was the U.S. Army. So we had cavalry soldiers assigned to be living at Old Faithful, patrolling this area. The officers went to their superiors, got special permission to come over in their dress uniforms, right down to the white gloves, just to help out the unattended and unescorted ladies. So a little bit of hazard duty there, bravely taken on by our soldiers. We also are connected to Yellowstone itself. Right down to these little squiggly lines in our logs made by the western pine bark beetle in their larval stage, and these were still live trees out there. If it happened out there, it's reflected in here. So I think of this building as a place of connections. The most important one, however, is the connection that you and I make to this building ourselves. So you decide what your connection is here. For some people, that's a love of anything made out of wood and the look of it and the feel of it. We have architects and builders and engineers staring up there all summer trying to figure out for themselves how and why this building is standing here. For some people, it's a fascination with the construction. For some people, it is our antique furniture that speaks to them. People respond to the radiators, people who grew up with steam heat in a house or a school. It might be a historic house or a hotel back home in your neighborhood that dates to this time period. That might make the connection for you. And then we have a lot of people with family connections. I mentioned a couple of old diaries. This is my favorite one. About 8 years ago, we had a woman step in here with her grandmother's diary. Her grandmother had taken the 5-day stagecoach trip in 1907. And while she was staying here, she cut out a picture of the inn from the railroad brochure, pasted it into the pages of her diary. She actually put an X in the window of the room where she slept. And because she had done that, and because her granddaughter brought the diary with her and shared it with our staff, they got very excited. They ran outside to figure out which room it was. The front desk offered to move her into that room. She accepted and slept in the same room her grandmother had slept in 90 years before. So we have fun making those connections. Whatever your connection is here, I hope you find one, and I hope it brings you back. And I'll be happy to stick around here and answer other questions. I'm sorry I kept you over time, but thank you very much for coming on the tour this morning.